So I have a different take on what happened in the stock market yesterday. A couple of disclaimers. First of all, this is definitely not financial advice because I am definitely not an expert. But I am somebody who sees patterns, and I think I see one here. That doesn't mean I'm correct, and it doesn't mean you should act on it. I'm just sharing the pattern that I think I'm observing. If it's wrong, that's okay. But as I was watching the market, I was also going and looking at the news about what was happening in the market. And it has been my experience that if the major news outlets are reporting something as the cause of something else, there's a good chance that's not actually the cause. So I always take that as my cue to stop and think critically about the topic so that I can consider what other causes there might be. So that's the origin story of why I started to think there might be something else at play here. There's a lot of conversation in these news stories about how trillions of dollars were lost. But were they? Because, see, the people who made big moves in selling off NVIDIA yesterday would have been investors that came in at much lower than what the current price is, which would mean they didn't sell at a loss. It would mean they were selling at that price and making a capital gain. Then everyone under them who's not as big of an investor who starts to sell off is experiencing loss. But they've created that sort of initial panic, for lack of a better word, that then drives the greater sell-off. And that's actually a lever that investors can pull when they do think a stock is overvalued. So I did a little digging on that and like what the actual fair market value of NVIDIA is assessed at. And it's around $130. And so that got me thinking that like, if I am a big investor and I am concerned that the stock I have is seriously overvalued, which may ultimately cause a bubble to pop, I could preemptively pop that bubble and cause like a much smaller adjustment in that stock price, which I know like almost 20% doesn't seem small, but in the scheme of dollars, where it was per share dollars, bringing it down, below $130 would be presumably the goal. And if I had an opportunity to do that right in line with also wanting to take out some of my capital gains so that I can reinvest it in another big project, I could coordinate it so that I am selling off a chunk of my investment, not the whole thing, but a big enough chunk that it sends the antennas up of smaller fish investors so that they also begin to sell, driving down the price. I'll still keep some of my money in this investment, but I'm going to take out, a chunk. Then I have a chunk of capital that I can work with to go invest in another project that is something I already needed to do. And this then also prevents the bubble on this investment that I have from getting too large. I also think if what I've pondered here is accurate, it means that investors are moving towards some other big project. And if investors are moving towards some other big project, then we're also going to see some of the big tech companies needing to free up money also, because presumably they would be engaging in said big project. So if I'm on the right track, I think the next thing we'll see happen is big layoff announcements from like Microsoft, Google, maybe AWS, as they are also trying to free up capital for whatever the big project is. So anyway, my 2 cents on this is that it has nothing to do with feeling threatened by DeepSeek, that the fact that people thought there was a threat by DeepSeek created an opportunity to sell off some stock and reduce a bubble and simultaneously move capital out in order to put it into something else. I could be way off the mark. Either way, I've shared it with you now. Have a great day.